Here he is.
Excellent. We can get started. All right. I just need my.
Yeah. She's ready to see.
She's going to confirm our report. Makes us kick our off. Good.
For being here for our annual general meeting for Symphony Nova Scotia. My name is Margaret Chapman and I am not David Wilson. I am David, our chair, is unfortunately not able to be here this evening. So I'm the vice chair and happy to be, well, not really happy, but I am happy to be here in his stead. So welcome. I'm going to first, we've got a bylaw, it's bylaw number 12, that says that we, as directors, have to call an annual general meeting by causing the secretary to send notice thereof to all members not less than 15 days before such meeting, and we also have to make sure that we have quorum for this meeting. So I'm going to ask Miley to confirm those two things.
I'll just speak very loudly. As my understanding, we do have quorum. I spoke with the staff handling check-in and restriction, and notice was September 23rd.
Wonderful. So with that, I'm going to declare that the meeting is duly constituted and the requirement for quorum was met, and the 2024 annual general meeting of the members of the Symphony Nova Scotia Society is called to order. To start, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting and Symphony Nova Scotia's performances take place in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And we're all very privileged to live, work, and celebrate art in this land. And I always think of a land acknowledgement as more than an acknowledgement, but a reminder for us all to do what we can towards reconciliation. We're going to start with a motion to accept the agenda for the meeting. And as a society, we follow the Robert's rules of order. And so the format for every motion is I will call for a mover, I will call for a seconder, and then we'll call for discussion, and then we as members can vote on that motion. So I'm going to call for a mover to move that we accept the agenda for the meeting today. Miley, and seconded by Gail. So is there any discussion on the agenda as presented in the package? Hearing none. Are we ready to vote on the question? I will say that we are. So all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, so the motion has passed unanimously. I also want to call for a motion to accept the minutes of the 2023 AGM that was distributed to the membership. Peter is moved, and I'd like to call for a seconder.
Tim Matthews.
Thank you, Tim Matthews. Any discussion on the minutes from last year? Hearing none, all in favor of passing the minutes from last year, raise your hand. Any contrary minded?
I don't think I have that.
And that motion is passed unanimously as well. Okay, so the chair's report, which David sent through, I will read through for you. So 2023-24 was a season of celebration for Symphony Nova Scotia, full of artistic highlights for our orchestra and meaningful music memories in our community, including our first provincial tour since 2007. We approached the season very optimistically after the success of our 2022 and 2023 season, and while we achieved great artistic success, concert attendance did not bounce back as quickly as we had anticipated. We continue to rely on our reserve fund, which has proven to be an essential lifeline for Symphony as we work to bring our finances back into balance. We are continuously grateful for the Symphony Nova Scotia Foundation, which was able to transfer almost $1 million to our annual operations. We are supremely grateful to our supporters, including donors, sponsors, funders, subscribers, guests, volunteers, and more, for appreciating the power of live symphonic music. Your commitment to Symphony Nova Scotia sustains us and safeguards this community resource for generations to come. Okay, so we're on to the finance report. So I'm going to call on Leah Hamilton to present the finance report.
Thanks, Margaret. I am Leah Hamilton, Director of Finance Administration for Symphony Nova Scotia. I am giving remarks on behalf of Kathleen Franklin, our treasurer, who cannot be here today. So we've had our audit for the 23-24 fiscal year. It was conducted by Grant Thornton, as it has been for many years. Grant Thornton has just recently changed the name to Doan Grant Thornton. They provided us with a clean audit report. There were no areas of misstatement, no adjustments were made, no disclosure matters or matters of concern were identified, which is very great news. The audit results show that that we continue to enjoy a healthy reserve that was built during the COVID pandemic. During the shutdown period, we received generous public and private support and had very little activity, and so we were able to build a reserve in that time. And as Margaret has mentioned, this reserve continues to be essential for supporting operations as we rebuild. So we're operating, as everyone is, as I am, as you are, in a higher cost environment than we were before COVID. So as a nonprofit organization, we are always seeking to balance our costs and our revenues. Our revenues, as you know, come from three major sources: box office, fundraising, and government grants. We saw some small gains in real dollar terms in these areas over the previous year, but our costs are outpacing these gains at the moment. This is a common issue, a common situation in the arts right now nationwide when we talk to our colleagues, so we're not alone. This is not unique to us, but yet it is a problem, it is a challenge for us to continue to work on. So for 23-24, we had planned to draw down some of those reserve funds in the form of a deficit for the year, and we did post a $442,000 deficit for 23-24. We did that as we invested in our people and our programs and brought our concerts to the community while we're focusing on that rebuilding of our revenues. So this planned usage of the operating deficit brings us now, or brought us at the end of 23-24, to about $1.5 million left in our reserve fund, which is still a very amazing amount of a reserve for us to be able to use in the future. That reserve fund is broken into two components. A little over half of that is actual cash that is there to help fund operations, and about $650,000 of that $1.5 million is represented by capital assets. So it's the instruments we hold, the piano, the cello, and all the other instruments we have, our library scores, our other assets that we hold. So that $1.5 million is not all cash, but more than half of it is. We are fortunate to have this reserve that will continue to support us over the next couple of years as we continue to grow. In closing, I would like to thank the members of the Finance Committee for their skill, their dedication, and guidance. We have an embarrassment of riches in our committee. We have 4 strong financial minds that most organizations would be so jealous to have. Kathleen Franklin is our treasurer. Mark Parkhope on the board of directors sits on that committee, along with Ruth March and Christina McIsaac as community members, all with accounting and strong financial backgrounds. Yvonne's been on the committee for a long time. There you are, Yvonne. And you've been on the committee as long as I have, and it's been a solid 7 years, so it's been longer than that. And we meet at 8 in the morning, and Yvonne comes with a smile on her face. So that's quite a feat of diligence and stamina to sit through all those meetings. And of course, Chris Wilkinson, our CEO, is a very active member of that committee and is the guiding force behind our prudent decision-making and organizational strength. And thanks to all of the members of the Finance Committee and the Board of Directors. The Symphony benefits greatly from your guidance and your expertise. And now I'll pass it back over to Margaret.
Thank you very much, Leah. So I'm going to call for a motion to approve the financial statements for 2023-24. 2022-23.
No,
23-24.
You can do that too.
Yeah, Gail, thank you. And the seconder? John, thank you. All right, any discussion on the financial statements? Hearing none. All in favor of accepting the financial statements as presented, please raise your hand. Any contrary minded? So those are passed unanimously. I also need to call for a motion to appoint the auditors of the for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. Thank you, Peter. And a seconder, thank you. And any discussion on the appointment of the auditors? So that would be Doan, Grant, Thornton, to be reappointed as auditors of the society until our next annual general meeting. Any discussion?
Do we know how long they've been doing that?
How long?
And is there any value in eventually refreshing that?
We have those discussions at the Finance Committee on a regular basis, and we've asked those questions, and at this point, we're happy with the service that we have. But it's a valid question to keep asking. When is it time to change to a new set of auditors?
Good question.
That's what I'm saying.
Keep clarifying.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Any contrary minded? And that's passed with unanimously as well. So thank you again, Leah, and to all of the Finance Committee of Nicole and Chris for the CEO report.
Good afternoon. This past season, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. Having been affiliated with Symphony Nova Scotia for most of those 40 years, the celebration felt very personal. With special funding from Canada Council and Wilson's, we were able to plan a province-wide tour. Audiences and presenters responded positively to a terrific program led by Holly Matheson featuring Nova Scotia's own Denise Jokers. We also presented many events reminiscent of concerts past, such as all the Beethoven piano concertos with John Kamara Parker and Beethoven Symphony No. 9. We competed in a newly revitalized Arts Nova Scotia juried application for operating funding and achieved a modest increase. We are grateful for the public support we received from Arts Nova Scotia, the Canada Council, and the City of Halifax. This funding is the foundation of our financial model and crucial to our success. Throughout the season, we negotiated a new collective bargaining agreement with the Atlantic Federation of Musicians and members of our orchestra. Talks were amicable and respectful, and we reached an agreement and have signed a new 3-year deal. We reviewed our strategic plan thanks to the engagement of staff, board, and musicians, and we have extended our strategic vision to 2027. Overall, the 23-24 season was a success, and we thank you for being part of it.
Holly. Thank you, Chris. Rather than get up. Good evening, everyone. The 2023-24 season has been one of enormous change musically in the orchestra, with a high turnover of seats
as many musicians have chosen to pivot their career somewhere else or move into retirement. Artistically, this has the potential to present some challenges, but I have to say the orchestra has pulled together tremendously well and presented an incredible 40th anniversary season with an enormous range of concerts, including some, certainly for me, once-in-a-lifetime events like the Beethoven Piano Concerto Cycle with John Camilla Parker, although I'm aware some of you probably remember the last time that happened, and our groundbreaking final Dalhousie session, Cognizant, Carrying the Burden Together with Ganook. The season felt artistically like the celebratory and reflective closing of the first 40 years of the organisation, but also a really bold statement of what the orchestra stands for in the next 40 years. With several of Canada's brightest young stars joining our ranks as tenured members at the start of their careers, that future looks to be an exciting one. And I really want to say how much I deeply appreciate the role of experienced orchestra members in bringing their new colleagues on board, showing them the ropes, and helping to incorporate these new voices into the fabric of our sound and culture. It's a real act of love and generosity to help these young musicians learn how to play, in this orchestra specifically, but it's wonderful to see that happening. We had some milestones in the year. We were pleased to celebrate the following anniversaries. Kirsty Money, who plays the violin, has been playing for 25 years. Hilary Brown, one of our cellists, for 35 years. And Christine Fire Island, our piccolo player, for 35 years. And it's also bittersweet to say goodbye to our beloved principal viola, Susan Sale, who's just been such an enormous presence in the orchestra, orally and socially, and she's moving to new adventures after 38 years of playing. She began her tenure in 1986 and has been principal viola since 1994. So a huge thank you, Sue, for your tremendous contribution over the years. Thank you. And I should do my job. Can I please introduce Tim Matthews, who's going to do the foundation report.
It's my pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of Symphony Nova Scotia Foundation. The foundation was created in 1991, and I just realized that I've been the secretary for 33 years, which basically means I'm the record keeper. We had a meeting yesterday, and we're updated with tremendous good news. So I bring you greetings on behalf of our chair, Denise Leahy. The foundation is governed by a board of directors consisting of 12 people, many of whom are past presidents of Symphony Nova Scotia. So they have a great knowledge of the workings of the society and, of course, a great devotion to it. When Denise wrote her message, which is printed in the annual report, she was able to say that the total endowment fund at that point was just a bit over $20 million. Yesterday, we were advised that it now is worth $22 million. This is part of the magic of the stock market. It also works the other way. So you have to have a strong stomach. But we have an investment committee, a very experienced group of people who work together with Scotia Wealth to look after these funds. And they're all very carefully invested in what we call blue chip dividend-paying stocks, with some bonds as well. And just a little history of it. Our largest single holding is the Royal Bank of Canada. That's about 6% of that $22 million. It keeps getting bigger. About 1/3 of it is invested in the United States. The rest of it is in Canada. And over the past 11 years, the average rate of return each year is 8.8%. That is a tremendous accomplishment, and it means that it continues to grow, because by law we have to pay about 5% of the value of the fund every year to Symphony Nova Scotia. So if we earn 8.8% and pay out 5%, you can see there's a little bit left over to cover inflation and also to make the endowment grow. When I say a little bit, I'd love to have that little bit, but it's actually a big amount of money. Last year, the payment to the orchestra was about $975,000, and assuming that the next 2 months are relatively the same as now, Alan Barkhouse, our treasurer, who does all of these calculations, believes that we'll be able to pay about $1 million to the orchestra, or $1,050,000 early next year. So again, a tremendous source of sustainability and stability for the orchestra. Yesterday at our meeting, Chris Wilkinson told us about government grants and about ticket sales, which are also growing, but not fast and not keeping pace with inflation, whereas the foundation is growing significantly, and we hope to grow it further. I'm happy to speak with anyone about the foundation and its work. It's been a great pleasure being associated with it. It's a good news story from the very early history right up to the present, and I'm sure it will continue to be a pillar for the orchestra. Thank you very much. I understand Peter McCaskill is going to come up and give the nomination report.
Thank you, Tim. Hard act to follow, about $22 million. Thank you very much for that. That's important work. So the nominating committee report is in your package. We met several times through the year and went through I guess various things that we do in order to ensure that there's a healthy turn on the board, but also that a diverse skill set is also accounted for in looking at new members. So you'll see in the report that there are 3 first-time nominees: Chedza Jones, Aaron Prosper, and Samantha Worship. There are a few who are returning for a second year: Jane Gordon, myself, Barbara Means Thistle, and David Wilson. So it's the second year of their current 2-year term. There are a list of 6 nominees who are proposed to be re-elected: Margaret Chapman, Michael Conway, Kathleen Franklin, Miley Graham Laidlaw, Julia Kent, and Mark Parkhill. And then there is the executive committee: David Wilson as chair, Margaret Chapman as vice chair, myself as past chair, Kathleen Franklin as treasurer, and Miley Graham Laidlaw as the secretary. Also listed in the report are the musician representatives as elected by the players: Max Casper, who is chair of the Players Association, Yvonne DeRoller, as well as Isabel Fournier. And the music for women, or Women for Music representative, is Shirley Dean. I also want to recognize board members who are completing their 2-year term in 2024 and extend my heartfelt thank you to those board members for the time served on the board. And that includes Mark Gosine, Hal Lewis, John McLeod, Brian Rendell. I think, John, you might be the only one here. Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll move the acceptance of the report and the election of the proposed nominees to the board. I'll move. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tim. You should call the
Thank you, Peter. Is there any discussion discussion or questions on the nominating report? Hearing none, we can vote on that. So all in favor of accepting the motion? Anybody opposed? All right, so that is also passed unanimously. Okay, moving swiftly along, we have other business, which is and I think I moved this, that we need to accept that all acts, contracts, appointments, elections, and payments taken, made, and done by the directors and officers of Symphony Nova Scotia Society since the date of our last annual general meeting be hereby approved, ratified, and confirmed. So I will need a seconder for that motion. Shirley, thank you very much. Anybody want to discuss that motion? All in favor? Okay, any contrary minded? All right, and that's passed unanimously as well. I also want to make note that we have received the Symphony Nova Scotia Players Association report as prepared by Max Casper, and that's in the 2024 annual report as well. Okay, so that's our annual general meeting. I just want to again thank John McLeod, who's here, for the long service on our board and all the contributions, along with Hal Lewis, Brian Rendell, and Mark Gosine for all that they've done as members of our board of directors during their tenure. Ah.
You can open it later.
Thank you again, John. And I'd like to request a motion to adjourn the meeting. Peter, thank you. And we need a seconder to adjourn as well. Thank you, Gail. All right. Thank you all. We did it all. We did it all. We did it. Without our chair. Pretty good?
Thank you, Margaret. Very efficient.